Also, I forgot to mention anything about my ADHD and stuff, so I would like to get into that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, Obviously, as you can tell, I forgot. We're almost at the end of our time. I forgot to mention this is a very ADHD thing to do.
Hello, and welcome to the Kick It with Katie podcast. I am your host, Katie Colliker, and thank you for joining me today. Today's episode is part 2 of my interview with Trentin Atkin. Last episode was all about his journey through his youth career up into college and where he is now as far as where soccer took him. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen. It's a great listen. So he finished his time playing soccer and then he took it into coaching. So now he's currently an assistant coach at Salt Lake Community College. In today's episode, he's going to be talking about his coaching, he's going to be talking about recruiting for college, he's going to be answering a few questions of mine. He also talks about his ADHD, which I know that there are lots of players out there that can definitely relate to that. And so he wanted to come on and talk about it. He's very open about it. In today's episode, he's going to be talking about coaching in college. He talks about college recruiting, which I know there are a lot of players out there that want to know more information about this, things that you can expect in college. He also talks about his ADHD, which he is very open about. So he does talk about that, having that, and how he managed it while growing up and playing. Thank you so much, Trentin, for this interview, and I'm very excited for everybody to hear this second part. Please make sure, if you haven't already, to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen, and also subscribe so that you're aware when new episodes drop. And big thing, share the podcast. Thank you guys who have been sharing it. Continue to share it because I want these players' stories, journeys, experiences, advice to get out there to youth players of today and their parents and coaches. I'm always looking for more people who want to be interviewed. So if you are a former player, a current player, a parent of a player, or a coach, please reach out to me on Instagram or email me. Email is kickitwithkatiepod@gmail.com, and you can find me on Instagram at kickitwithkatiepodcast _ between all the words, and those links are also in the show notes. Please let me know if you have any questions for any of my specific guests that I've had on the podcast, and I can always reach out to them, give them a quick interview for any follow-ups that you guys might have. But again, if you have any specific questions currently as a player, parent, coach that you want answered, please send them my way and I will try and get them answered for you. So here is the second part of my interview with Trentin Atkin, and here you go.
Yeah, so now we can talk about kind of my coaching experience too, just kind of, and I have a lot of other notes too, but so going on to coaching, I said I want to talk somewhat about the recruiting then versus now. So as I already mentioned, everything we do is based kind of on film. So at Slick, we heavily recruit international players.
And Slick is Salt Lake Community College for those of you that aren't local to Utah.
Yes, yes. Sorry about that. And so at Slick, we over half our team is international. I'll name some of the countries that some of our players are from. We have players from Japan, Spain, Brazil, Argentina, Italy, France. We had players from Russia, Netherlands. So really all over the place, which is it's so refreshing to be around different cultures and different diversities and just being around different
Mm-hmm.
people that aren't Americans, I tell you. And so we recruit heavily international, and we can't go and watch these players all live. It's just impossible
Mm-hmm.
unless we're a huge club like a professional club, which we're not.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to do is we find agent companies, and then we look for these players, and then they'll send us film, and then we'll try to go out and see them once we kind of have them in our system. We've seen them, like, oh, we like this player. Yeah, so we heavily recruit internationally, and it's worked out well for us. It worked out well for Slick. We've had huge success in the past couple of years. Mark Davis has been great. He's the head coach at Slick. He does a fantastic job. Great, very great coach and motivator, good person. Yeah, so he's been able to develop a really strong program, and I'm super happy to be a part of it. We were able to go to the Final Four this season. We won our SWAC conference, but ended up making to the NJCAA Final Four, where we lost 2-1, which could have gone either way. With what I've learned with soccer or football is that you kind of have to have the luck of the ball. Sometimes you can be the better team all you want, but sometimes you really do need the luck, the ball to bounce your way a couple times, and the ball just didn't bounce our way in that game. Yeah, so at Salt Lake Community College, we just got a brand new turf field, like super nice facilities. We are set up nicely. Yeah, set up for success. And yeah, just kind of going on
And
that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
and Slick is just they're not a 4-year school. They're just the 2-year school, right?
Yes, correct. So Salt Lake, we're just a 2-year school, and something that what we're good at and what we've been doing is, so we have players from, and that's why international players like us so much, is that we're able to get them in good schooling, and then we're able to send them off to Division Ones. That's kind of the appeal about Slick, is once you're done with your 2 years here, we're able to send you off to a bigger college, a better institution. We're just trying to help you out. We're trying to help the player grow. So actually, in the last 4 years at Salt Lake Community College, we have had 9 players sign pro from Salt Lake. 2 this year, so 2 players, one that went 19th in the draft and one that went 29th in the MLS draft this year. So Mark has been building some really good things over here. I think it is really interesting being on both sides of coaching and soccer. For me, I didn't have the best experience with my college coach at the end of it. It just didn't fit me. And so now I can implement things and stuff, ways that I thought, I don't know, things that how I want to treat players. Sorry, I can't talk right now, but anyways,
What
I
you
get to
wish
treat
would have
players how I
happened
want.
when you were there.
Yes, exactly. Thanks. Which is so awesome, and getting to know the boys and stuff, it really does. I think that's what makes me happy, and that's why I am a part of this business. It's not just the soccer side of it. Yes, the soccer side of it is nice, but it's the relationships you have. And if your relationships aren't good, then you're probably not going to have the best experience. And that's what I would say for any new high school players looking to go to college. Make sure you like your head coach. I think that is super important. Don't just go there because it's a big school. You're going to end up being miserable. I ended up going to Grand Junction, basically nowhere, just in a small little town, and ended up being an amazing experience. And just speaking on that too, a lot of high school players, because I was the same way, is like, oh no, I'm only going D1. That's the only place, the only options for me is D1. So I'm going to go D1. Well, when the offers don't come, or the offers aren't exactly how you want them to be, then you end up changing kind of how you look at it. And so that's how I looked at it, is basically just whatever offers come, take an honest look at it, but keep your circle big. Get to know other colleges. Don't just focus in on one college and be heartbroken once that doesn't happen. And another cool thing about Utah is the growth of soccer in Utah. Just from a club to academy to professional to college, it has grown so much in the past 8 years since I was playing, that there was no UVU. I mean, they started, I think, my first or second year. There wasn't UVU. They still had BYU and Utah still had the club teams. Westminster kind of, I think, was doing NAIA. Slick wasn't started at the time. But now we have all these universities, Snow, Eastern State, UVU, Dixie State, or I guess Utah Tech now. There's so many options. And that's kind of what I was looking at too. I was like, well, there's not a lot of colleges in Utah for me to go to. So I had to branch out and really look at outside schools.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Which would definitely be hard back then, especially without the capability of being able to send tapes. Like, you just basically had to be like, my team's going to this tournament in this place. Can you come and watch me play,
Yeah,
basically?
exactly.
So, and it's really, especially when, I mean, now there's more of them, but back then there weren't as many teams in Utah that would travel out of state to be seen by college coaches. So it definitely took a lot more on people's part, and people in other states that maybe have a similar experience where their teams don't travel as much or they don't go to high level tournaments that college coaches are at, just do
Yeah.
that extra work and do the films now and send those out, send your links and things like that, because that will definitely help you be seen if they can't see you at these tournaments and play live.
Yeah. More film, the better. And yeah, it's really funny because like I remember I think about it now and I'm just like, how did I not be more anxious or have way more anxiety back then when trying to find a college, because just the technology and stuff just wasn't there at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
man, it was so stressful. I remember when I got my offer, just the relief and the confidence that I got once I signed for Colorado. It was just like felt like all the weight on the world got lifted off my shoulders.
What grade were you when you signed?
Yes, senior year. Senior year, a little bit. I think it was like a week after the signing date.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing to talk about too. Is when should you start emailing coaches? When should you start reaching out to college coaches? I think the start of your junior year, you should start emailing, trying to get a hold of coaches. A lot of college coaches don't start recruiting. They go year by year. So if your year is not in the recruiting year, unlikely that you're going to be looked at. But the main thing is just to create that contact, that link, like, oh, hey, I saw Jack's name. Oh, this is Jack. And then they put it all together. Like, he's been interested in, oh, he must be very interested. So we like this kid. So yeah, just making sure you're contacting him the junior year, and then any film that you have, keep that stored up, save that from junior year to senior year. Sometimes, I mean, college coaches, they don't know if it's your junior year or your senior year sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
keep all your film.
One of the other things that you had mentioned earlier, just basically not meshing with your coach. You really liked your first coach in college, and but then this new coach came in and he wasn't really a good fit for you, but you were kind of, I mean, you were kind of stuck. I mean, I guess you could say where you were. You were trying to see if you could stick it out and make it work and everything. So, as far as like youth players of today, what are your feelings on that for youth players who maybe, you know, aren't meshing with their coaches or things like that?
I think there's a good balance of I've had enough of this coach and to stick around with the coach as well. Like, there's a fine minimum. Like, so for me, I I could have probably left. I think that first off, don't be scared to leave. I think that's one thing that I fear. Don't be scared to leave, but also realize the grass isn't always greener. So I kind of took it
Mm-hmm.
as just stay where you're at, just wait it out. Hopefully, you'll be fine. And hey, I still ended up having a very successful career, and I got my minutes. I got my starting position, so I wasn't really too concerned about that. But yeah, no, I think that with not liking your coach, I think you need to try to connect with them on a personal level. Try to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that my coach never did in the 4 years, and what Mark does really, really good at is he talks to the players. Like, he we as a coaching staff, Mark, myself, and Travis, he's the other assistant coach, we notice what's going on with our players. If they're like any little thing, if they're getting tired, if they're misbehaving, if they're just have a little extra attitude, and we'll sit down with that player and talk with them like, hey, well, you can't act this way, or hey, what's going on? We've noticed your play is dropped. And I didn't get that once. Or hey, we noticed this and this, or hey, Trentin, why are you acting like this? Can we talk about this? And I think that would develop. So realize, try to connect with your coach on a personal level, even if it might be awkward. Try to sit down and talk with them. Try to find a middle ground. Try to see what they want from you. See what you're not doing. And I think that's what was missing. Is I was kind of scared to talk to him, and
Mm-hmm.
and then again, it didn't seem like he was super wanting to talk either. So
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be a very working relationships with the coach. And I think that's what the game is kind of translating to, is you can't treat, there's better way to get maximum output from your players. And you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
be Mr. I'm in charge to get the maximum output of your players. It could be as
Right.
simple as pulling them aside for 5 minutes and talking to them. And not every player is the same. I think new coaches, I think some coaches are stuck in their old ways, but I think a lot of coaches do adapt, and I think a lot of people are adapting to kind of this new wave of kids coming in, and
Mm-hmm.
they're realizing that there's other ways to get maximum effort out of your kids. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if I could have been just sat down with my coach, if we could have just talked, if we could have if I could have found what he truly is expecting of me, just an honest conversation, I think is probably one conversation away from everything being fine. But yeah, going on that, when you're not happy with your coach too, at least with my personal experience, or your coach makes you feel uneasy or anxious, I don't know what the word is, whatever makes you feel, it
Mm-hmm.
kind of takes away from your confidence. At least it did with me. I wasn't as confident as I could have been. I remember there was one time. I love sharing this story just because it was shocking to me at the time. I started the game, whatnot. I made two bad passes. One was, yes, a bad pass. The other one was forced and led to a bad pass. And I got subbed instantly after that. Two passes. That was it. That's all it took for my coach. So I was that's how I always felt around him. I felt like I was on eggshells. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
make two bad passes in a row or else you'd get subbed off.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I felt. I think trying to get with your coach on a personal level, or coaches vice versa. Coaches get with your players on a personal level. I feel like that's one thing that separates Salt Lake community culture from other colleges around the nation, is we are very much a family. I don't know if you see. Oh, look at that. We have it on our shirts. Um, I mean, we try to treat every kid with respect and how they want to be treated, but yet with our standards involved with it. And
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of these players being international, we are legit their family for
Mm-hmm.
2 years or however long they're here, because they can't just call their mom in Brazil to fly today. Like, sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't work like that. So
With them being such an international, like a meshing of international players, is it interesting for you as coaches to see how they come together from all these different countries for the love of this one game? I mean, because it's basically like you said,
oh
they're
yeah.
creating a new family, but it's like they have this one thing in common, even though they speak probably completely different languages and they have different religions and backgrounds and cultures, and they're probably socioeconomically different as well. And so for you, is how is that to see?
It's so cool. I, Soccer just brings everyone together. You don't have to be speak the language, but just football bring. And I say football a lot because I'm around
Mm-hmm. Right.
international players. So, and
Mm-hmm.
they always say it. So sorry if don't say the correct term soccer, but I guess that's debatable. Anyways, being with the international players is so cool. I feel like every time they come in there, they're like almost like a kid, because I have to do some of the airport pickups, and so they're
Mm-hmm.
arriving to America for the first times, and a lot of the time, the international players, they are just they're here to play football, soccer. They're here that's what they're here for, and
Mm-hmm.
at Slick especially, they are here to play soccer. Like this is one of the most important things in their life. Most of them have left their whole family just to come play soccer. And when I first joined, I didn't know how all the other languages would mesh. I thought it would be like some sort of awkwardness, but no, these kids, once they get on a field with each other and they get off practice, they're already all brothers, bros, as they say it. They're all
Mm-hmm.
bros, and they're connected instantly, and they don't even speak the same language. We had a Japanese kid who just came in who spoke zero English. I mean, he obviously can comprehend, but the speaking part of it was very
Mm-hmm.
minimal. And I mean, he's treated exactly the same as our best player. It's just, I don't know, it's just the culture around Slick is very different. Also, I forgot to mention anything about my ADHD and stuff, so I would like to get into that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, as you could tell, I forgot. We're almost at the end of our time. I forgot to mention this very ADHD thing to do. So, a lot, talking about my ADHD, I think it's been help. I don't know. For me, it fits me. I don't know. It's not hurtful. It's not really helpful. So I was diagnosed at a very young age. I mean, I struggled sleeping. I can't sleep without just medication. So I'm very much doctor prescribed with my ADHD. So I have it pretty bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and every time, this is just random too. Every time I mention like, oh, I have ADHD and stuff, and people are like, oh, I have ADHD too. I can't sit still. I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm. It's
not
a
the
little
same, but
different.
kind of. Yeah. So I always had. I just didn't read. I struggled with reading at a young age, and maybe because I was a year up in grades. But then I did things twice as long. Everything that a normal student would do, it felt like it took me twice as long, just because I had trouble concentrating. I had very much uh, in elementary. I've been able to manage my ADHD now, so if you looked at me and saw me, you're probably like, "Oh, he's just normal." But it was just because I've lived 27 years with it now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so at a young age, it's just been, I don't know, it's been a weird challenge. So I've you can really tell with my ADHD when I'm playing soccer, like if I've taken the correct medication for the day, or if I'm
Mm-hmm.
like in the right mind space or stuff like that. You can easily tell, like, okay, Trenton didn't do this, Trenton did that. Or and for me, I would have trouble concentrating in soccer. I'd have trouble concentrating in school. So I had to take medication for that type of stuff, and it really zoned me in. But if I didn't, and I don't take this medication anymore, but if I did, I I mean, anyways, so I had to take it for like games and stuff like that. It really helped me. My mom really helped me a lot out, I will say, just because my ADHD was so bad that I sometimes needed a helping hand. But I mean, with school, I mean, I don't know. It's it was just different for me. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
different experience.
Well, I was just gonna comment, like we've seen as coaches or parents on the sidelines when we've seen people and they just kind of zone out a little bit and we go, that person did or didn't take their meds today, like knowing that
Yeah.
they have ADD or ADHD. And I had a player whose mom was like, oh, by the way, they didn't take their meds today, so I'm so sorry. And I'm like, okay, that explains it. I
Thank
will,
you.
as a coach, I'm like, okay, I'll manage it and not take it out on the player, because obviously it's definitely difficult, and I don't want to make them feel bad for something that they literally can't you know make right on their own without that. And so what did soccer help as far as like your ADD or ADHD? Because I know that at least some of the players that we've known in the past that have had that or have it. I mean, it's not like it goes away, but it really helped them focus, or it was an outlet for them to be able to kind of I guess express stuff. Or like we had some players whose parents put them in it so that they could run out their extra energy, hoping that that would happen. And it's, sometimes it's kind of like, well, I don't know if that's going to fix it, but it'll get them a good workout,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So was there anything that maybe your youth coaches, I know that Matt, you said he was really patient with you, knowing the situation, that you had it, that he was, in tune to that. And so he kind of helped guide you with that and made sure that it was something you could, I just banged my desk, that you could manage it and help you focus and things.
Yeah, so I think the one thing that soccer did with me and really helped my ADHD is gave me a schedule. It gave me something that I have to be like locked in on, especially if like college, having school and college soccer at the time, you have to have structure. I guess that's the word I was in for, structure.
Mm-hmm.
It provided so much structure in my life that, I would I've seen some of my family members where it could go if there isn't structure. So I mean, it just kept me focused, kept me on the right path. And with my ADHD, it's like I care a lot. I don't want to mess up. I don't want to do bad, and that's something I think cripples me a little bit with my ADHD is I get so anxious. I overthink stuff. I remember for one fitness test we had, I was so anxious. I was fit as could be. I know I was going to pass just fine, but I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get the thoughts out of my head. And I ended up not being able to fall asleep right before a fitness test, and which obviously made things a whole lot
Worse.
worse.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then just going on Matt too. Matt was just so my parents were kind of involved with the club, so they were able to get more of a personal interaction with Matt than maybe say just a regular parent. But regardless, Matt knew my situation. Matt knew because he had my brother unfortunately as well, and my brother was a little bit more ADHD than I was. But so he kind of knew the background that we were coming for, and he was patient in growth and just mature. He let me mature as an adult, which or as a young man, and I was able to mature and I was able to show that I am capable of all these things. And if he would have just ditched me on the side at 15, 16 when I broke my collarbone and just things weren't going right for me, I could have
Mm-hmm.
been in a totally different place. So I'm very grateful that he had a little bit of patience for me and just kind of understood, hey, yeah, you act this way and I need to deal with you this way type of stuff.
Yeah. What's like a favorite memory from youth soccer, whether it be a tournament, a game, and just an experience on off the field? What's a favorite
I
memory?
So a lot of my favorite memories do get tied up with winning championships or winning things, which isn't. So I'll try to pick something that's not necessarily involved with that. I don't know. For me, it's just I really enjoyed being a part of the team. I don't know. For some reason, the team chemistry that we had, and which every team might have, is we are able to compete day in, day out without anyone necessarily getting angry, like trying to fight. So we were able to compete as hard as we could. And, that always kept bringing me back to practice. That always kept demanding more of myself. I was able to grow a ton. So I really enjoyed our training sessions. Those were some of my best moments. It's where we got to learn who we are as people, who our teammates are too, is kind of our first sense of team unity. And you really get a sense of like team unity too once you hit that college level. Just it's like the first time you're out by yourself. You're an adult now, technically. You're going to college. There's no parents, and then winning something with them too. That was kind of one of my most memorable stuff. Is just being able to share these moments with your teammates. I think that's why a lot of people got into soccer if is because of there's 11 other players on the field. I think that if we didn't want that interaction, we would be playing a solo sport like golf or tennis, something
Mm-hmm.
that um, you can't blame on a teammate. So I think the team has been probably one of my favorite, just the unity we all had.
And any advice for youth players right now? Any advice, anything that you
Yes.
haven't already given?
Um, yeah, no. You're gonna have to do more work outside of practice. I don't know. The 2 hours a day you have practice is just not going to be enough for the next level. What my call or club coach Matt challenged us. So he wanted everyone, and this was kind of the easiest way to get pretty decent in soccer. He challenged everyone to complete 1,000 juggles by the age of 15 or something. And
Mm-hmm.
so get on the ball, get those touches in, and I promise 30 minutes a day extra goes a long way, especially when you're going through funks, especially when you're not having the best performances. Go spend an extra 30 minutes each day, every day. It's going to be a lot of work, but it ends up being worth it.
The other thing that I wish I had written it down, but now I remember. I was going to ask you. So you touched on it briefly, like between club soccer and college soccer. When you're going from youth to college, you said the physicality of it is different, and
Yeah.
it's definitely more physical. I mean, and you were saying you're an 18-year-old competing against 26-year-olds, and so obviously your bodies are going to still be different. They're probably going to be bigger than you still, even though. But anyway, so what's some other differences that players can expect? Because I know, like, usually with club soccer, you have like maybe your one coach, and maybe sometimes they'll have a specialist coach, like a technical coach or whatever. But college, there's usually different coaches. I know I saw you guys went and did like nutritional stuff with Salt Lake
Yeah.
Community College, and so what's some of the stuff that players can expect when they're transitioning?
I would say the first thing is get used to lifting weights. For me, I remember I was in high school. I was like, well, why do I need to lift weights? I'm good at soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm better, or I'm just as good as the players around me. Right? So lifting weights, be able to start doing your push-ups, sit-ups every day, because it's going to be a main part of your day-to-day life in college sports. Also, school. School is huge. If you're at like Salt Lake, we really we want you to do so well that it's like we try to set you up in the best possible situation so you can get good grades and then transfer on. Get good grades. That way if you're ever looking to transfer somewhere, or just the even initial start, is a lot of it has to do with grades. So be a good student. Next, yeah, kind of talking. So what we did at Colorado Mesa and then at Slick as well. So we did these bod pods. They're called body composition test analysis. So they basically test how much muscle, how much fat you have on your body, what your bone density is. So basically, what you do is you get down and skin tight clothes. Usually, it's just like underwear, and then you sit in this pod, and then it sucks all the air out, and then it's able to give the most accurate test possible of just kind of what your body's composed of. And then also at Slick, we have a nutritionist. She is awesome. She has taken us to local grocery stores just to kind of teach us healthier, cheaper options for student athletes and soccer players.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what she does is we have a really cool like team room where she always provides healthy snacks, nutritional stuff for our players. Also, expect study hall. That's Study hall is basically just working on your extra homework. Almost every college that I've been to has a study hall, and the grind is real, especially once you get into the later of your fall season. It gets tough. So do what you can to preserve yourself and make sure that you're the best at the end of the season. And lastly, spring season. Spring season usually, so fall season's our competitive season, whereas spring season is kind of our off season. So in spring season, what we usually do is mostly just trainings and weightlifting. So yeah, you're gonna have to be really fit and just speed of play too. I think that was kind of the biggest difference: physicality and speed of play. Yeah.
And for those that are going from, graduating high school, going to college, just remember, usually the people that you're with are experiencing it the exact same as you. They've probably never been to college either, so it's kind of a new experience for everyone. I mean, obviously there's kids who have been there, junior, senior, sophomore years. The freshmen, like, you guys have all probably never done it before, so it's a new experience for all of you to experience together.
Yeah, it's terrifying and exciting at the same time.
So that's all that I have. I mean, we can wrap this up. So thank you so much for coming
absolutely. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate you listening to me.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Trentin, for your interview. It was a really great interview. I enjoyed catching up with you, and you had great advice for these youth players of today and sharing your experiences. And I know that a lot of the stuff we talked about today is stuff that people really wanted to know as far as college recruiting, college experiences, and you definitely can relate to those players who might also have ADD or ADHD. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your experiences. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to go and rate, give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast, and then subscribe. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really enjoy this. Next week's episode is going to be an international episode. I have somebody from across the pond over in the UK that I've interviewed, and I will be sharing his journey. His name is Ben Herbert, so I hope you guys are going to be excited to hear about his experience over in the UK. If I have anybody that is interested, wherever you are in the world, that wants to be interviewed, I'm definitely down to hear your experiences, because it was really interesting to hear Ben's journey. So I can't wait to share that with you guys. Thank you again, Trentin, for your interview. You had great advice, great stories, and thank you so much for sharing. Thank you guys for kicking it with me, and have a great day. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at kickitwithkatie_podcast _ between all the words. You can reach out to me with questions at kickitwithkatiepod@gmail.com. I also have a feature with SpeakPipe where you can leave me your own voicemail message if you want to be featured on the podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.